can mean one and only thing. This is ChipChat. Welcome to ChipChat. I'm Chip. Who are you, Tez?
You just told him, buddy.
Woo!
Yes.
Welcome. We have a guest tonight.
We do have a guest tonight in studio.
To a wild. We had that last week was a good show.
Yes, a really good show.
I just finished listening to it.
Really
do you have your Skyhorse page up ready to commit chaos?
I got it. Don't worry, we'll get it. I'll sprinkle it back in.
Go back and listen to last week's show.
That was insane.
That was nuts.
That's insane show.
Okay, so this week, Fred's here. Hi, Fred.
How you doing?
So Fred makes robots that help battle climate change, but may also take over the world. We don't know. So we'll talk about that.
That's Elon Musk right there.
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about Leon. Yeah. I think his name is Leon now. Trump called him Leon. Now he has to be called Leon.
Leon.
Yeah.
It's a different person altogether. Leon Musk is a different person altogether. It's not the same person.
Apparently, I don't make these rules.
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't know how this works. All right, FEMA's under attack. Literally, we sort of hinted at that last week. It actually happened.
Yeah.
So Trump is swaying to the music, and Mark Robinson somehow got back in the news. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's going to be a wild one. Plus, we've got updates from Israel, which when we wrote them, we thought were updates. They are now basically old news.
Yep.
Totally new set of things to talk about when we get to that segment. And let's see. We'll head down to Georgia, see what kind of votes the devil's trying to steal. It's going to be great. It's going to be wild.
Jimmy Carter voted.
Jimmy Carter did vote.
Yes.
And he got his sticker.
Yeah.
Which was the important thing.
You
don't get a sticker for being 100, but you do for voting for when you're 100.
That's what you do. That's why you do it, right? Just to get a sticker.
Is there a better reason to vote?
I really don't know. You know.
Okay. Tez doesn't listen to our show. Okay. Do you have your word?
Sure. Yeah, I have a word. Yeah,
okay, I've got a word. Let's see if it works. If it's relevant. All right. So we're gonna take our first break. So sit back, grab some
ballots.
It's peanut time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps. Here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm Chip. With me is Tez. What's popping up?
Fred is here with us.
What's up, Fred?
How you doing?
Okay. So, Fred, before we talk to you about your robots, we're going to do some news things, okay?
Let's do it.
You ready? This is the part of the show that's called The Rundown. This is where I tell you about some stuff that's going on in the news. If we were professionals, it would sound a little something like this.
From Beltway Radio and beyond in Washington, D.C., I'm Emmy-nominated TV newsman and just bona fide sexual beast, J. Scott Smith. And this is the part of the show where I tell some stuff about well, maybe not me, but somebody else is going to tell some stuff about what's happening in the news. So what's going on in the news, fellas?
Thanks, Jay. If he ever gets married, we can't play that clip anymore.
That's going to be just, it's something you did.
I think you can keep playing.
Yeah,
we can keep using it.
Something you did, you didn't, you don't do.
He used to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. At the time, it was the context.
Yeah.
It was taken out of context.
I think it would be. I think it will be his introduction to his weddings.
His future wife.
Right.
Yeah. We'll play that on the wedding night. Yeah, at the intro.
I love it. We'll play it.
Well,
like
yeah.
We're gonna DJ.
Wait a minute. You think we're not going to be emceeing J. Scott Smith's wedding?
Crazy.
100%.
He's crazy. He's
we got him a Murrow. Several Murrows. We're going to get him an Emmy. Charlie's going to have to vote on him. There's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Neither do you.
You'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. So this is a special election edition of the Rundown. So we're getting super close to the election. There's only one more episode of this show left before that takes place.
Yep.
Just to remind everybody.
Hide.
So remember,
I've taken the whole week off.
Remember, yeah, I'm taking the day off. Remember to vote. Unless you're Republican, your votes are in December.
No, this is insane. We gotta stop that.
What? Eric Davis did it.
That legitimizes the whole shit that we do here. You cannot do that. Stop that. No.
They do it.
Hey, yes, they do.
They do it all the time. There was that guy in Michigan or wherever he had taken out ads in like a bunch of newspapers, but then he took out an ad in the only black newspaper.
Yes.
And they had the date wrong for the election in that ad.
Sick.
In a giant full-page ad.
This is a true
and
story.
And then they were like, hey, did you do that on purpose? He's like, what? No, that was a typo. You're like, well, how come the same ad ran in all these other ones and it doesn't have that typo?
You know, yours is not a typo.
Yeah. It was like, oh, no, you got me. I don't know. Also, where's Derek Anderson's fake family? They stopped being in his commercials.
Oh, man.
He's got new commercials.
All right. Yep, there you go.
So this story here is about the campaign food.
I thought it was an interesting story.
Some of this tracks with what I already thought was true.
Yes.
Which is part of the story. So the Washington Post data dump or whatever, Datacom, whatever it's called, they parsed a lot of filings about where the two campaigns are spending their food budgets. Okay, when campaigns spend money on things, they have to report all of what they spend the money on, and they have to post all these receipts and everything, and all that's public record. It's mind-numbing, and you should not bother. But the newspaper has reporters whose job it is to learn all that, and sometimes they write it down and tell it to us.
Yeah.
So in this case, some of these things are like blatantly obvious. We just mentioned this to Fred casually offline before this started. He guessed the first thing right away,
of course,
which is that Trump's campaign spends all of their money at McDonald's. Something like $35,000 he spent, almost $36,000 was spent just since January at McDonald's, which is an awful lot of McDonald's. I mean,
it's an American institution.
Price of cheeseburgers has gone up, man.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's paying it all. That's another thing that kind of shocked me about this. Overall, Republicans spend about 26 times as much as Democrats at the Golden Arches. So there's a preference there. Republican campaigns also showed a huge preference for Chick-fil-A. Again, this is not a shock. I mean, like, the Democrats can't be seen eating Chick-fil-A, even if they are buying it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They're buying it.
But
they definitely can't be seen eating it.
That line is a freaking Benetton ad of different people that are just lined up.
There are a lot of people who are willing to, compromise the lives of...
Secret guilty pleasure.
Yeah. That's your liberal blind spot.
I'll take it.
I have successfully not eaten Chick-fil-A for like more than 15 years. So... there you go.
I wish I had a flag.
Yeah, I defeated Papa John's. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. I started boycotting Papa John's to get rid of their CEO because he's a racist douchebag, and then they got rid of him. And I have continued to boycott Papa John's just because it's not delicious. It's the easiest boycott I've ever made. That's the easy one there. I didn't like it.
But I did Chick-fil-A one.
I beat Corey Stewart, too. I kicked him out of Prince William County. Out of Virginia entirely. All right, anyway.
So that means, where are you going? Are you going
so the Democrats are all
here?
going to very exactly where you think. They're going to Sweet Green. They're going Pan Quotidian, corner. Yeah, Panera.
Yeah.
They love Panera.
They love Panera.
If you work in an office, you get exposed to a lot of Panera because it's just like the default cater.
It's been around for a
and it works. They send the box. Everybody likes what's in the box. It's easy bags, whatever. It's, pick it up, take it home. Okay, Republicans, Democrats also go to different
coffee,
coffee, but also like other sort of fast casual stuff. Shake Shack, Qdoba, Jimmy John's is a Republican apparently. I'm not sure. I like a lot of those places. Democrats are responsible
not for long. Right? You gotta give
Sweet
them
Green and all those other. No, but that's not how that works at all. Like, it just happens that I might run into some of them there.
Okay.
I blend in. I'll be fine. I look like one of them.
I'm sure that the policies of the ones actually I don't know that. I could look into who knows what Panera's doing.
Yeah,
To be honest,
I used to
don't know.
fix all their equipment. I know how their machines work, but I have no idea what
Who
their
knows?
labor
I don't know what
practices are.
exactly or who they're endorsing.
I know they lose their ever-loving shit if their rethermalizer isn't working,
There you go.
which is the thing that heats up the soup.
Hey,
It's a critical
you need,
part of
what
their
are we
life.
talking about? You need cold soup? What the
Yeah,
hell?
well,
the hell? Yes, that's critical
Yeah,
infrastructure.
so they
for them.
totally freak out about that. Some foods transcend party, of course. Everybody likes Italian food. Apparently, French food.
Interesting.
I was like,
They
I
have
don't
Le
know.
Dip.
Who's going to what? Who goes out? I can't even name like a French restaurant that I would go to like on a regular basis.
The only French restaurant I know is Chez Francois, and that's like 4-star.
Yeah,
Expensive.
like Citronelle was back in the day in
Le
Georgetown.
Diplomat,
but like,
yeah,
Diplomat,
there's
but that's
another-
Belgian technically.
I guess it is technically.
But same basic idea.
Yes.
Continental.
Close
Roman.
enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
They speak French. It's like Canada. Canadian, does that count as French? But here was a surprising thing. Republicans spend more than twice as much as Democrats on barbecue, which I was shocked to find that out because I love barbecue.
Yeah, no, but
Who doesn't love it?
barbecue?
That's why I would figure that's more universal.
it is. But then I could see, I guess,
All the vegetarians
exactly.
they don't want the
They don't want that.
barbecue tofu.
Ugh. What the hell?
You can smoke tofu.
I guess but what the hell are we doing? We've lost the fucking plot. at
They're
that point.
already vegetarians.
that's
What
fine.
the hell are they doing?
I mean,
They,
everyone enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah, so you know
do
what?
what you want to do.
I'm not gonna yuck
I
your
just,
yum.
I am a little. Okay. Speaking of barbecue,
Brisket is undefeated, man.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. It's just
yeah.
undefeated.
I'm
Undefeated.
I'm smoking prime rib all day tomorrow at the curling club. So if you want to come by, come to Potomac Curling Club for the glitter bomb spiel, and we need volunteers. So if
Well, there's the plug.
hey, trying to help. It's an LGBTQ bond spiel. We're doing the thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, as I would
Trying.
expect.
That's why they want prime rib.
Of course, yeah, right.
We need a
Get-
lot more meat. Okay. Anyway, speaking of barbecue, let's go down to Georgia.
All right.
Okay, so let's say you're somebody who watches John Oliver's thing on YouTube. You would have found out about it on today because it gets released now on Thursday mornings, not on Monday mornings. Because once again, everybody's trying to compete with us.
Of course.
They do the debate on our day. They
State
do
of the
the
Union.
State of the Union. They moved it to Thursday prime time. So it's like everybody. We get you, John. You want to be like ChipChat? It's cool. We're with you. You can come on the show. I'll finally let you on. So he tells this story about Georgia having this voter suppression stuff, which they did.
Right.
But there was an update Tuesday, I think, is when this story came out that a Georgia judge basically, well, there were two rulings because there was one on the weekend before that, and then there was this one that came out on the Tuesday. That here's what happened. Georgia has they appointed new members to their election committee,
Right.
who makes rules about how the precincts and counties and stuff are to conduct their elections, pursuant to the laws that the legislature passes in Atlanta and that Governor Kemp administers as the governor of the state. Right? Okay. And so they formed the committee, and the committee was like, we're going to make voting hard because it's Georgia.
Right.
But also, we're going to make counting votes confusing because we want to be able to later say
Exactly.
there was confusion.
They learned in 2020 that it's really about who counts the votes, and this is where you can figure out a way to create confusion. And again,
Even if you lost, all you have to do is say, look, we're not sure that this was conducted fair, and that gives license for violence.
mind you, we've been doing this a long time. There's never been an issue. There's really there's been, let's say there's never been an issue, but the actual process,
number of people who vote fraudulently and all of this
doesn't
stuff
happen.
is vanishingly small.
Yeah, it doesn't happen here.
It's like one person every 4 years or something. It's really unlikely. So anyway, this goes to court, and interestingly enough, you might want to know this, that the Kemp administration was one of the plaintiffs that took this to court because they were like, this is not the way the law is written. So the committee came up with two things that they wanted to happened. One was that every precinct or every county had to have 3 people who had been there all day hand count every ballot before they started voting and after they started voting, independently of each other, and had to come up with the same number. And if they didn't, everybody in the county doesn't count.
Not possible.
Not possible.
It's not possible.
Talking about thousands and thousands of papers.
It's not possible.
It's just intended to be impossible. Yeah. The second thing was they said that if a county precinct captain or whatever was uncomfortable with the totals or didn't trust the results, they could choose to not certify the votes in their county.
Which is crazy.
Because
you're just there to do, like, the whole process is you're just there actually to certify it.
Yeah.
You're really not, we're not bringing you in to
We can just write the law to say self-certify.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be a person. But because the law says that they shall certify,
yes,
it means they don't have a choice and can't just be like, I'm not sure.
I don't think I'm going to do it this
time. You shall do it.
Yeah.
I wish that shall was a negotiable word several times. No, officer, I was doing 65 because I thought that was the right speed limit to go. You shall go. No, I shall not. I shan't. I shan't be doing such things. So the judge was like, no, idiots. Okay, to be fair, the law is written down, with words in English, and they're from Georgia. So it might be a little tough for them to negotiate the squiggles into sounds to understand the words. So let's give them benefit of the doubt. They're just illiterate. But the second thing was this thing about counting. And illiterate, as a lot of people in Georgia are, they can count. Obviously, they can count. They're running up all these points against Alabama. So they got to know, like, how all the points count. So they can count by sevens. And they were like, no, this is not possible. And they struck it down.
As they should.
As they should. Victory once again. But is this victory? Or did they manage to create the confusion that they were after anyway, even in getting struck down?
I think if the rule is that, the end rule is that you have to certify the election, that's what matters. You can't have something that's vague that says, oh, maybe that is at the end of this. And I still assume people will be allowed to challenge the election. Like, there's still going to be ways to do that, and people should have that right. But yeah, you can't have it. It still has to come to an ending point because there's a date in December that we need to make it to.
That's right. So it's interesting that you mentioned that about the challenges, though, because here in the article it mentions that the decision adds to a body of judicial precedent that Democrats hope will close off any attempt by Republicans to pull a bunch of shenanigans in court.
Right.
Okay? Because if all this is going to get sorted out in court, right, there has to be case law, legal precedent to refer to. Here's pretty clean example of that.
Some of these judges don't really care. Like, we've seen other examples where in the past they're like, hey, there's big examples, obviously.
Did you see that judge spend 13 minutes reading Tina Peters' sentence to her? It was as if I had written it. I was shocked. This dude is a judge. Yeah. And he wrote it all. And you know what it sounded like at the end of Billy Madison, where the guy's like, everybody in this room is now dumber for having heard you speak. I award you no points and may God have mercy on your soul. That's what it sounded like. And she just sat there smiling the whole time. He was like, you got famous off of this, and don't you have any shame? And she's like,
No, she's an avatar for it.
Yeah, she's them. That is what it is. Okay, so that's what's going on in Georgia. Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Fred about climate change-saving robots. Sounds awesome.
Yes.
Let's do it.
I'm not smart enough to understand it, so I'm going to let you handle this.
All right, cool.
We're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
volume, pump up the volume. Nothing but sweat inside my hand, so I nothing but sweat inside my hand, so I nothing but sweat inside my hand, so I 1, 2, 3, and move, and move, and move, and move, and move, and move. 1, 2, 3, I used to be a stick-up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. I used to walk up the street, whistling this, feeling out places, man. Thinking of a master plan. This ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. So I walk up the street, whistling this, pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
Welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's popping, y'all?
That was some version of Rakim?
Yeah, it's from Mark Broom. He's from England.
England.
Yes, very old England.
Sweeps.
It's part of his hip-hop tech edits.
Very funny. He's from England, you know?
Yeah, I do not know him, but that also...
I assume all y'all know each other.
Yeah, because everybody...
Right, everybody in England knows each other, right?
Small island.
Yeah, it is. You're the one that's always saying that.
No, that's Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
All right, so Fred Briggs is the CEO of a robot company. I have that right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, but unlike Bond villain and my printer's really doing a bad job here. Apartheid connoisseur, Elon
That's
Musk.
what it is.
There you go.
Okay.
Fred is trying to help the planet a little bit. He builds robots that inspect oil storage tanks and save climate change or climate damaging emissions in the process. Fred, welcome officially to Chip Chat.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
Okay, so tell us first about what these robots are and what they do.
Yeah, so a little bit of background. Most people don't understand how refineries and crude oil storage works, but at a refinery, they have big crude oil tanks that then gets refined into diesel and Jet A and gasoline and everything. And the crude oil holding tanks are huge. They can be big enough that they could actually fit like 2 football fields inside of some of the bigger ones. So they're enormous, up to 8 stories tall. They're huge. And when you pump crude oil out of the ground, you get between like 1% and 3% salt water.
Okay.
And so the salt water's heavier than the oil. And these tanks are built out of steel plates. So the water settles to the bottom.
And it corrodes it.
And you can potentially corrode out the floor. And so it's always trying to corrode it.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. And these tanks,
they leak.
They potentially can. And you've got to, it gets into the groundwater. And the oil in these tanks is not like the 10W30 that's going in your car. This crude oil is really nasty, toxic stuff. So you have to make sure that these tanks, are containing the oil, right? So periodically they're required to be internally inspected. And so the only way to do that right now is send people into the tank. So what they do is
they just like lower them down with a rope?
They drain the oil, and once they've drained the oil, then you're left with all the sludge and sediment and crud that was left. So imagine 2 football fields up to your waist in toxic sludge.
Nice.
So it's
That's
wonderful.
a job.
It's a terrible
And
job.
and so somebody goes in there and inspects the bottom up through the sludge?
So, they got to clean out the sludge first.
Yeah,
so
right.
That takes about 2,000 man-hours to clean all that stuff out.
1,000 man-hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that takes a few months to get that stuff cleaned out.
What do they do with the sludge?
It's a good question.
Okay.
There's so generally, it depends on where you are in the world, but generally speaking, they'll go find an old well, just shove it back down an old well.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Put it back where
it came from. Okay.
Yeah.
They steam it and get it like super thin or whatever.
So there's a few problems here. Once you drain the oil and you crack the tank open so that you can start evacuating that material,
you let in a bunch of air.
The worse, you're actually letting all the
greenhouse
gases,
the fumes
into the atmosphere.
All the methane and stuff.
Yeah, all the methane.
Gross.
So the CO2 equivalent of that is about 25,000 tons of CO2.
Every time they open the tank.
Yep.
And like once they open it, then all the sludge is in there, and then if they open it again, it's already off-gassed similar amount of carbon.
It just keeps off-gassing.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Yeah, so you have uncontrolled emissions for several months
while they're cleaning.
While you're cleaning it out. Yeah.
Yo,
And
that's bad.
And how often is this happening?
All the time, right?
Every 10 years is the schedule on these tanks.
But there's
So
hundreds
there's a
of
lot
these
of
tanks all
tanks,
around.
though, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
there's more like 50,000 of them.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. So we're talking on the order globally, annually, more than 100 million tons of CO2
Just from this.
just from the cleaning process on these tanks.
Okay.
So this is one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gas in the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Maybe we should just shoot for 2.5.
Yeah,
see
yeah.
where we're going on.
Yeah.
Maybe we just look at
Okay.
and just let everything, we'll figure it out. I hope.
So,
That's crazy.
okay, normally on this show, it's Tez's job to terrify us about the impending doom of climate change.
I'm off
Yeah.
tonight.
But you have
I'm
absolutely
off tonight.
scared the living daylights out of me.
Yeah.
Look at these dead
Yeah,
ass
that,
birds.
Yeah,
it's not good. And it's probably terrible for the people who have to do all the cleaning, too.
It's horrible work. It's some of the worst work on the planet.
And people,
Oh.
these are they got to get certified, and also it's very
Well, so you're
expensive
going,
work, too,
yeah.
I
So you
imagine.
got to go in potentially with oxygen and masks and the whole deal. And imagine a tank sitting in, the heat of Houston inside of a tin can, wearing a full outfit. And keep in mind, inside the tank, this tank might be 60, 80. There's 100-year-old tank still out there running.
Right.
And the roof can be halfway corroded, and so chunks of it can fall on your head. So this is really dangerous work. It's they call confined space entry.
Right.
And so
I'm used to confined spaces like ejector pits, for a sump pump or something like that. This is miles worse.
is terrible, yeah. So you've got dangerous confined space entry, like 2,000 hours of it. You've got the environmental problems, and then from the customer standpoint, say some of the big oil and gas companies, it's very expensive. The process I just described is about $4 million to do that cleanup. Once they have it all clean, it costs maybe $50,000 to send a team in there and do the inspection.
Right.
But they spent $4 million in cleaning to get it to a point where you can actually do the.
And it's going to get dirty again. And we're
Well,
gonna do
yeah,
this
then
shit
you
all
have to
over
do it again in
right?
10 years.
Eventually.
And
right?
Well, yeah, and as soon as you've done the inspection, you seal it back up and throw crude back in it and get it back running in the refinery. So all around, this is just a bad process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then you're like, I bet you we can do this with a robot.
Well, the interesting fact is 80% of the times when they crack the tank open, they don't find any critical defects. So we just
Right.
had.
Because they're well engineered, they're well designed. They're probably
Okay.
they're meant to not
they're-
have defects.
Yeah, there's modern materials. They put epoxy coatings on the steel. So they figured out how to keep these things running and not getting corrosion and holes in them, right?
Right.
But you're required to do the inspections,
Sure.
and rightfully so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if this stuff starts getting into the groundwater, I mean,
It's
You-
gonna
I mean, yeah.
make a Superfund site in minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
bad. No, don't do that.
yeah. So
Please. That's all we need that.
So most of the time, again, 80% of the time they do this, there was no reason to have all of these emissions other than it's just the rule.
Right.
So is there a
So-
way to do this but keep the lid on the thing?
So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yep. So we're just about to get into pilot programs right now. So we've been working on it since late 2019 and developing a solution. And the solution here is you keep the oil in the tank, keep the sludge in the tank, keep it all sealed up. You basically put a valve on the side of the tank, and then we attach a tube with our robot in it. Open the valve, inject the robot, and then the robot can swim through the sludge and sediment and oil and basically swim around the floor. And it's got a specialized
Like
sensor.
sonar at the bottom or whatever?
Yeah, it's uses something very similar to like what you use for a sonogram.
Okay.
And it can basically penetrate through the steel plate and get a 3D image of the steel plate.
It's not an eddy current.
It's not. It's a phased array ultrasonic transducer.
Okay.
But it's more.
Eddy currents look for relative thickness in metal based on dragging a magnet through it, which is not what we're talking about.
Yep.
So, okay, but it's an imaging system.
It's an
essentially.
imaging system.
Sonic imaging system.
Yeah. And so you're basically sending a sound wave through the plate, and you can see the reflections. And so basically what you're looking for is if it started out as a 1/4-inch steel plate, and I can bounce this reflection through it, and I can see, oh, it's only 1/8 of an inch thick now.
That's a bad spot.
Then, well, shoot, I've got an 1/8 of an inch of corrosion in that area, right?
Okay.
And so you can see how much thinning is happening, if any.
And the robot can go through the whole thing with everything full.
So that's the innovation. So the way this whole thing really started was Petronas, which is an oil and gas major. If you follow Formula One,
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, sponsored by Petronas. So that same company had been trying to get a robot to operate in this environment for quite a while, failed every time. And the big problem is, how the heck do you get a robot to operate in that sludge? That's really thick
Because there's
material.
robots that operate in the pipelines, right? They
Sure.
send the pigs in, and
Yep.
they can scan but that's in flowing oil.
That's in flowing oil. In this
Very
case,
different.
you can operate in oil, no problem.
Yeah,
it's the
sure.
sludge at the bottom.
Right.
So it's like molasses, right? Like how do you get a robot to operate in molasses?
Super powerful motors.
That's part of it. But so they said, hey, we desperately need a robot to operate in this environment. We haven't been able to figure it out. If anyone's got any good ideas, let us know, and we'll throw $250,000 at you.
Okay.
And so
Good start.
I saw that proposal and said, what
Right.
the heck, I'll throw in an idea. And I did, and I won. My co-founder and I, we spent
Dope.
something, we won, and got the money and started doing a little bit of R&D work, just like lab experiments, not a whole robot, just looking to see if the core concepts would work. And turned out that our ideas worked pretty well. And,
So you need something that's like really powerful, the motor, because it's got to push through all this sludge.
yeah, so
And it's got to carry a ton of weight, I would imagine, because all those sensors and everything like that.
Yeah, well, so the weight you can take care of with buoyancy, so you can fill it with
Sure.
nitrogen
Okay,
and
that
other
makes
things.
sense.
So our robot is about 200 pounds, but when it's sitting on the floor, it's like 10 pounds.
Gotcha.
Because of you can tweak the buoyancy.
Okay, so then that cuts down on the power that you need a little bit.
So
how do you power this thing though? Because what do you have, a cable that goes in behind?
Yeah,
it?
so we've got a tether cable that goes into the robot. So we actually shoot about 400 volts DC.
That's
yes.
a lot of juice.
It is a lot of power. It's a lot of
Yeah.
voltage. And so it's got fiber optic for data communications, 400 volts for the power, and then on board the robot, knocks 400 volts down to 48 volts and then distributes that. But as your voltage goes up, you can distribute the power over longer distance.
Sure.
Your line loss is much lower, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
why we pump the
That's
voltage.
like why
up so
high
much.
tension lines are running at 600 and then it steps down to 480. and all that
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So really, the innovation here was we take oil from higher in the tank and pull that down through a pump and flood it around the robot
To try
And
to thin out
to
the
try and
sludge.
thin out the sludge, right? But you're not introducing any external chemicals or
Right,
anything
it's
like
what's
that.
there.
It's
Brilliant.
exactly what's there. And then the second part of that is really at the very bottom, you can have really dense like sand sediment.
Yeah.
And it's been compacted. It's been sitting there being compacted for like the last 10 years.
Do you have like a plow or something that pushes
So
it?
we actually use localized vibration, and that will take all those hard packed particles and start breaking them up.
Get them to suspend
And
a little bit.
Yeah,
in
you
the-
get them
in
to
the
suspend
fluid.
a little bit, and then fluid flows in between those particles, and then that creates a phenomenon known as liquefaction.
Yeah.
And that liquefaction actually reduces the viscosity by about 80%.
Wow.
That's
so-
the thing that causes like the dams to fail. Is the
100%,
liquefaction
yeah.
of
So
it.
like
okay.
if you were to build a house on like sandy soil, and then you get an earthquake, I'm sure everyone's seen like a house that like literally fell into the ground, right?
Yeah.
It's usually because you've got water or some sort of sandy soil, and you get an earthquake, something starts shaking it up, and that takes all of that soil and turns it
compacted
into
sand
mush.
starts to behave like a fluid.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then the house or road or whatever just falls into the ground, and that's what's happening. And so we use that phenomenon
Wow.
and in a localized manner, and we can vibrate it plus inject the fluid, create liquefaction right around there. And
Does the crude
thin out
oil
material.
like stratify a little bit in the tank as it's sitting there, so you can get some
100%.
really thin, almost solvent stuff from the top?
So high up, it's
Kerosene or whatever.
well, it's not quite. It's thicker than your normal 10W30 oil or
but
something.
it's still a lot.
But
thinner.
it's still a lot thinner. And then as you go down, you kind of got some sludge,
asphalt and
and
all that
sludge
stuff.
is really paraffin wax
Yeah.
mixed
Okay.
with crude oil, and so it's sort of this gelatinous, slimy,
gross.
stuff. So it's the paraffin wax, but then you've also got sand and just crud that gets pulled up in the process too. And so then that's sort of the bottommost layer is that sandy.
So the next question that I was going to ask is why is the oil storage infrastructure important part of limiting climate change? But I think you pretty well answered that
Yeah.
already. So now I want to know how many of these robots are out there operating currently.
Well, so in crude oil, none.
You're still in development.
Yeah, we're still in development, and like I said, a number of companies have tried, including Petronas and Exxon and BP. And
so if you crack this code, you're going to be the only game in town.
Yep.
That's
so there's companies who do robotics inside of product tanks, refined products like diesel, Jet A, gasoline, stuff like that.
But that's a consistent stuff that's in
but
there.
it's the consistency of water.
Yeah.
Right. The same. And a diesel tank doesn't have like sludge and crud in it because that's getting pumped into vehicles, so that's a pretty clean tank. So there's robots that do that, but the big challenge is the crude tanks.
Like, how do you think? And obviously, hopefully, it goes in, it does its job, and comes back out.
How do you clean it off?
But like, also, how do you if it does for whatever reason fail in the tank? Is there like a retrieval process?
Yeah.
Or like, does something go
rescue it?
How do you rescue this out of the tank? Because I assume like you need to get it back because you could fix it and
pull it back on the tank.
That's a big question customers have because again, these assets, there's so many millions of barrels of material in there.
Yeah.
If we get a robot stuck in there and take that asset offline for them, man, that's
bad.
That's
it's really bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. They don't care about our robot. They need that.
Yeah,
asset
right,
back.
exactly.
Yeah,
that is a really good point.
Okay.
Like,
So
don't care about the robot.
So so we have engineered it. So ultimately, the tether has a cable inside of it, so you can actually pull on it quite hard. And ultimately, if the robot were to lose power and it's just sort of dead in the water,
you can pull it back.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you can pull it back out with the tether.
So let's say that you get this to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ultimately, there's a commercial aspect to this, right? If you get it, you're the only game in town. Exxon and everybody's going to have to buy this robot from you.
Yeah.
But considering that this is potentially, a huge impact on climate and saving all of these resources, have you thought about any kind of like open source aspect to this or licensing the technology so that, for the good of the planet, you get more of these out here, even if you don't get all the money?
Unfortunately, we started
or your
this
business
back in.
plan says you got to get the money.
Yeah, so we started this in 2019, and here we are in the latter part of 2024, right? So we've been at this a hot minute.
Yeah.
And the only way to have an R&D office and engineers and whatever is venture capital.
You got to get your money back.
And so they're not hot on the idea of open sourcing this and.
It's worth asking. Now, what if the government came and said,
I was going to say that was
we
the
want
next.
to buy your patents out and make this available to everybody. We'll pay you for it. You get a royalty. You become some sort of state monopoly, whatever. Are you open to that idea?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
This is America. It needs to make some money.
It's too lucrative at a certain point there.
Yeah.
Let's say it does work.
So what we would be interested in doing is scaling up rapidly.
Naturally.
Right?
So you probably license it to people to build.
Yeah, well, we would ultimately we're too small, and so we would go to a much larger, multi-billion-dollar company and have them acquire us.
You call GM and say, "Can you build this for us?"
Yeah, we'd go to a big company and have them acquire us for $500 million. And
don't undersell this here.
Yeah,
this is a world-changing technology.
Yeah.
If it works.
So yeah, we'd sell.
Go for a couple billion at least.
Yeah.
Come on.
So ultimately we would exit the company, sell it to someone much larger,
who has
and
the ability to scale up,
and they would have the resources to build hundreds of these things.
Of course, the robots, like in movies, they talk, right? And it makes sense to me that as you develop this, you need a voice of the robot. And I happen to know two radio hosts who could provide the voice. We could be the voice of the tank bot.
We need a Danger Will Robinson.
Yeah, you need something like that.
He's insane.
Defect detected or whatever.
Insane.
What if we were the voice of the robot?
The robot is going to
sludge robot. Yeah, it's just like our show.
Right.
What is the name of the does he have a name? He, she, what? I don't know.
So
various
there's
iterations.
been a couple of names. None of them have really stuck so far.
Okay. We can help you with that.
So
Oilbot 2000 or whatever.
Oilbot has been one of them. We called it Visor at one point, which was an acronym for vibration inspection.
Okay,
whatever.
hey,
that's very robotish.
One of those.
Yeah.
That's like a very robot. Yeah.
Inducing acronyms.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get a bunch of engineers.
I was gonna say.
We called it Otter, OTIR, oil tank inspection robot.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Have you thought about just naming it after yourself? Call it Fred. I mean, you could just
could
name
be.
it the Fred.
Yeah,
Could be.
Fred,
Yeah.
Could be. I wanted to name it like Kraken, like release the Kraken.
Yeah, release the Kraken.
that is
yeah.
true. Something like
How
that.
are we gonna
Yeah.
check this tank? I know. Release the Kraken.
Kraken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brilliant. The branding, everything.
Yeah.
Seattle, okay.
Gift shop.
Yeah. All right. So, switching gears a little bit, do you worry that your robots or other robots will eventually rise up and demand higher wages or worse?
No.
Unionized
No.
robots?
No.
That's not going to happen. Okay. No, I mean, it is the thing that, like, anytime people
They
start
learn
talking
from
about
us.
Yes.
Not teaching you.
Every time-
we just got back to that.
Yeah.
we just got back
It's
around.
like robot Woody Guthrie out here, like robot Pete Seeger. So what is, but you know, people always, anytime you introduce the idea of robotics, people are like, oh no, what, you know, they're going to overthrow humanity and stuff.
Yeah.
Is little Fred here gonna be a danger to any of us, or he only wants to help?
Yeah, I mean, I think where you're going to see robots continue to grow is in the classic dirty, dangerous, and dull jobs.
Yeah.
Things that are repetitive, humans don't want to be doing.
It's not safe to send people in to do this.
Right.
either.
Yeah. And so you're seeing that in a lot of industrial environments, at coal plants, wind turbine blade inspections with drones, bridges. You're starting to use drones. Instead of hanging guys off of ropes and doing that type of work. So I think you're going to continue to see that type of robot evolve. But you're also seeing it in the everyday market, right? Like you go to McDonald's, we were just talking about, and they have automated machines that are running the fries through the...
Oh, yeah. I used to work on those. They're pneumatic. They're really cool.
Yep. They've got machines that are cranking the drinks out faster instead of
do.
someone
Those
having
are
to
also
hold
a lot
it.
of fun.
Yeah, so you're starting to see more and more automation to minimize or eliminate some of those.
Can we
repetitive
automate
jobs.
them to do spreadsheets for me? Because I hate them.
I think it's called ChatGPT.
Yeah,
right?
but we're not allowed to use that yet. Bullshit. Okay, if you're listening,
That's a policy problem.
No, they did release us. Yeah, it is a policy problem, not an engineering problem. They did tell us in a newsletter this week that we could go ahead and use it. They gave us a link to try. I'm not going to use that thing. I'm afraid to tell it my name. All right, so what do you think? Is there a role for like government policy in robotics, and what do you see maybe in terms of AI versus more of these industrial things?
Yeah, there's definitely a role for government here. In our case, government was defining the tank inspections, right? And when all the regulations were written, they're written saying, hey, you have to do a visual inspection of such and such. Well, what does visual mean?
It's not telling you anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, does visual mean, what if I used a sensor? What if it's a camera, right? So what does visual mean? And so they wrote the regulations, making sure the industry doesn't, get too far off track and these tanks aren't leaking badly all the time and that type of thing. But then they have to adjust the regulations to account for some of the new technology.
Sure, yeah. But, I mean, in your case, you're talking about an industry that was essentially your specific part of the industry was created by these regulations.
100%.
And so when you hear that people say, oh, regulations are killing industry, you think about so many examples where regulations literally create whole industries, and safety is certainly one of them.
Well, there's, saw something interesting recently. I was looking at, so there's the Inflation Reduction Act,
Right.
which is
The IRA, we talk about it all the time.
Yep. So the fines from the methane exposure and all of that. Well, when you go to the corporate venture capital groups within some of these big oil and gas companies, that's driving them to invest in.
Of course it is.
To new technology, right? Well, if you eliminate that, the Inflation Reduction Act, well, suddenly all of that innovation.
They have no reason to do it.
Yeah. So it's really driving quite a lot of innovation, and so that's something that's.
So it's you heard it here from a venture entrepreneur in private industry talking about how regulations are propelling industry and innovation forward.
And there's huge opportunities.
Huge opportunities. Right, yeah. So just in case you are listening and buying any of that bullshit,
I mean, just this little tank segment we're working on, it's about an $18 billion market. So
almost as much as porn. Right up there.
And there's got to be other like places or like whether it's around safety and regulation that you can.
It's everywhere.
Industry.
Everywhere.
It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. And if and we're not talking about regulations that are coming out of thin air just to
No,
create
they've
an
been-
industry.
yeah.
They're obviously a response to a potential risk or a hazard or whatever.
There's all kinds of opportunities with infrastructure inspection. We were talking about bridges a second ago.
Right.
I mean, a lot of that infrastructure is crumbling.
It is.
And
Yeah.
it's a really expensive and difficult to do those inspections.
If only there was an infrastructure bill that gave a bunch of money. Oh, wait. It's infrastructure week. Next week. It's coming in 2 weeks.
There
Every
you
2
go.
weeks.
All right.
2 weeks.
Can't wait for that again.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's
not.
going to be so good
Yeah.
when you be back to infrastructure week every 2 weeks. It's like a party. Okay. So do you think I can't read this? My printers. What's my fifth question?
Your fifth question: do you think we'll see more automation in the future, and where?
Yes,
I think
which
that
we
was the
already
answer.
kind of
Yeah, we
did that.
covered
so
Yeah,
that's good.
Yes, and everywhere.
Everywhere.
And not just really fancy robots doing these bespoke things, but you're seeing it in your everyday life at McDonald's, right? So it's happening everywhere.
I mean, it's been a part of our lives for a long time. You think
Yeah.
about it, all the cars and the assembly plants. Basically, everything that you touch that's a manufactured product has encountered a lot of automation before it got into your hand.
Look at going to an ATM, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even
Yeah.
banks are automating
Yeah.
the process, right?
People
So
are
it's-
irritated if they can't go to the ATM. They have to go in and talk to a person. And those same people are like, oh, I don't use the self-checkout because it's putting people out of jobs.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you go into the bank and write a check. And you're like, fuck that. No.
Exactly.
Right. Idiots. Even my beer experienced a lot of automation as
Yeah.
it was being canned and sorted and packaged and sent to me. So thank you, robots.
So yeah, you're seeing it everywhere from really low tech to super high tech, everything in between. I mean, companies are constantly looking for ways to
Eliminate workers.
eliminate workers and
Eliminate hazards.
that's a big piece of what we're doing
Yeah.
as well. Eliminating the hazards. It's both the from our company standpoint, one of the key drivers is the environmental piece. But when I
Right.
go talk to big oil and gas
They
companies,
want dollars and cents. How much labor hours can I save?
they want, well, it's not so much the labor. They really care about eliminating those hazards. That confined space
the
entry
risk is
bothers
really-
them a lot.
Yeah.
I've been on those sites, and you can talk about it and whatever, but until you go on site and you see the infrastructure and really how dangerous it is being there, you really start to care pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are doing some tough work in hard conditions. So
I mean, I do a bit of that myself, not at that level, obviously. But yeah, I mean, having anybody say, hey, that's a little too dangerous for you to go in there is that means something. You want to ask any more questions before we play Florida or not?
No, I think we should go into Florida. Now.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Fred, we're going to make you play a game called Florida or Not,
okay.
which you correctly guessed is exactly
Florida
what it
or
is.
not?
There you go.
Yes.
You're not the only person who said that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Also what he
So
said.
just exactly. It's how it goes every time.
So, okay, here's the way this is going to work. Tez is going to read this to you because
I was gonna say. I was
can't-
gonna ask if you were able to.
I can't read my printout well enough.
All right. Let me
So,
make sure
Tez is
I
gonna-
don't. I've never done this, so let me make sure I don't actually say the. You did that. Before.
I did that once.
You did that once. It's right.
Yeah.
You gave it away. So
Tez
we'll
is
not-
going to read you a story, a news story with the locational details removed. Your job is to guess whether this happened in Florida or not in Florida.
Okay.
Okay? Take it away.
All right. A woman from China pled guilty on Friday to attempting to smuggle 29 eastern box turtles, a protected species, by kayak. Wen Yi, what's the pronunciation?
Don't know.
No, okay. Wen Yi,
Ing. I think it's Ing.
41, was arrested on the morning of June 28th at an Airbnb as she was about to get into an inflatable kayak with a duffel bag, according to the Border Patrol agent's affidavit filed in federal court. Agents have been notified that two other people, including a man who was believed to be her husband, had started to paddle an inflatable watercraft from the blank side of the
Cross the border.
Cross the border, right? Towards the United States. According to court documents, the agents searched her heavy duffel bag and found 29 live eastern box turtles individually wrapped in socks, the affidavit states. Eastern box turtles are known to be sold on the Chinese black market for $1,000 each.
Which is crazy because I've got a bunch in my backyard.
Well, you're in market. Hey.
My kids named them FedEx because they're boxes.
That's good. There you go. They're going to be in a FedEx
Yeah,
box.
that's right.
soon.
100%. $1,000.
$1,000 each, the affidavit stated. Her cell phone was seized, and a search by law enforcement found communication showing that she tried to smuggle the turtles into so that they could eventually be sold for a profit in Hong Kong. According to the plea agreement, Ng from Hong Kong was living somewhere. She pled guilty on Friday to one count, of unlawfully attempting to export and send 29 Eastern box turtles out of the United States, contrary to law. First reported on the we won't say that place, but they first reported on the plea deal. She is scheduled to be sentenced in December and faces up to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000
in 10 years.
Yeah,
for some turtles. All right. So where did this happen, Fred?
This is Florida.
Is Florida?
Yeah.
What's the answer? I can't read my phone.
Oh, you can't read it
I
on
can't
there.
read it.
Sorry, Fred. It's not
No!
Florida. It's Burlington, Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's coming in and out of Canada.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's paddling into Canada.
Yeah, Vermont.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. I know. Look,
It had a very Florida
Well,
vibe.
it was the
turtles.
it was
there's
the
kayaks.
paddling.
turtles,
Yeah.
and it was the East Coast. It was
Yeah,
the
Eastern box turtles. Yeah.
Okay.
It had a
And
lot
Florida
going
has
for
a
it.
lot of waterways.
yeah,
That's
I'm
something-
with you. Yeah, look.
Yeah. I mean, look, whoever writes the show meant it. So that was
Okay.
That was a good
I read ahead, and I knew
actually knew the answer
I
this
knew the
time.
answer this time.
All right.
I write this show. I didn't know the answer.
Yeah,
I
well,
couldn't read
you
it.
can't read it.
I forgot.
All right. Is that the only one I get?
That's the only one you
Yeah,
get. That was
wow.
it. So you did not win, but that's okay. Actually, quite a lot of people don't succeed at this. It's a harder game than it sounds. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll have the third half of the show. We'll talk about stuff in North Carolina, a bunch of other stuff. Fred, you are certainly welcome to hang around.
Yeah, I'll hang out a little bit.
Okay, but before we go to our break, tell everybody where they can follow the stuff about the robots and like read up on the company. Maybe they want to invest. You know, there's a lot of big monkey mucks who listen to the show.
Yeah, just appliedimpactrobotics.com and same on YouTube. Got a few videos there. I think they're playing a couple of them were playing earlier. And,
Okay, great. So and we'll post links to all of that, of course,
Okay.
Yes.
when we send out clips, which is very cool. And I think this is brilliant. I think this is one of those things where when it works, it's going to be game changing for the whole planet. And
that's the goal.
And
Yeah.
I do want to make sure that everybody remembers that they heard about it on this show.
That's all that he cares about. not letting,
100%.
not cutting down on the carbon footprint.
No, I care about that. I
Uh,
just want to be part of the
The
story.
Yeah.
When they say, first discovered by
Yeah.
local radio show ChipChat
Yeah.
featuring
There he
Tez.
is, Brian.
This world-changing technology is responsible for saving billions of lives. You don't care about billions of lives, Tez. That's
of course,
fine.
yep, that's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
very much.
You know me.
I'll eat
All right.
Mitch McConnell.
I'm ready.
Yes. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You're listening to ChipChat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
And we're not getting what humans always thought was key, the bone broth. 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 Well, now it's the next level of that. It's caveman. But hey, I need a glass of caveman. Caveman. Man. It's better than Ovaltine. Better than Ovaltine. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Caveman is just over the top. What in the world? But now with the milk, I was like, whoa, this has milk in it. Whoa. It tastes like good. Man, this tastes so good. Tastes like the best milkshake ever. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. Like good. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. Like good. Whoa.
This is I can say without a doubt, at least in my experience, that this is literally.
This is a super home run available at InfoWars.
All right, welcome back to ChipChat here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Ted.
What's popping out? I usually love the Alex Jones
And that,
video.
yeah.
That's the one I don't.
That's,
like.
yeah.
I hate that one.
Fred's here. Fred, is that your first time seeing that video?
That is the first
Yes,
time.
of course. Don't
Yeah.
ask him a stupid question like that.
That's
This
okay.
is the first time he's ever. Of course.
Are you a fan of the bone broth?
Anybody who's ever come on this show to see any of those videos is the first time they've ever seen those.
Yeah, that's possible.
I will put money on it every time.
No, you're right. Remember, we looked up like how many views. They're in like the 30,000, and
Yeah.
it's all us watching it.
Yes.
over and over.
We occupy this weird spot of the internet.
Yeah, we
Just
are laughing at them.
At them, not with them.
Not with them.
We do understand that he thinks Sandy Hook is a false flag operation. And
We are going to buy the Turbo Force, though. I want the rights to Turbo Force. We're going to try to do that.
I'll put that disclaimer out
Because it's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I have to have that. It's Turbo Force.
I feel like I could come up with something dumber.
I
sell
don't
it to
think
you.
so. You've already demonstrated you're a lot smarter
Yeah.
than we are. So I don't. Okay.
And we're almost in Witches and Warlock season, too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're close.
Brian.
Next week. Next week.
Okay, so this segment's called North Carolina News. Did you know that there's two kinds of Carolina?
Yes.
There's a North and a South.
There is a North and a South.
One is full of Tim Scott's. It's not this one.
Not this one.
No. He got married to the Canadian fake girlfriend that you don't know goes to another school, and then I think they broke it off.
Go.
So I think he got. Maybe he got divorced too. Maybe they just got unengaged.
Oh yeah, I think because they couldn't have been married already.
I don't know. Maybe.
Once you're out of the VP running, you don't have to be
If
married.
only there was a way to check. Okay, so this one is about sort of what we told everybody about last week. Is the Hurricane Helene did terrible damage to Western North Carolina, the Asheville area, Swananoa River Valley, and a lot of people are dead, and a lot of people are missing, and whole towns were washed away by these 100-year floods that came crashing down the mountains. 2 feet of rain fell in the space of a day and just washed everything away. What's the answer?
Matters of the Mouth, a holistic guide to achieving optimal oral and overall health.
Tim Scott's a fan of that. You seen the teeth on that guy? Where's his upper lip?
That's how
where is? Okay. Focus. So, North Carolina took a beating in this. And, of course, what usually happens and what we talked about last week is that, of course, there's a response, federal aid response and state aid response. So, FEMA, of course, was there. They knew this was coming. They rushed down there. They've been distributing resources. They've been helping get people, safe into housing, dig things out of the muck and take down all the trees. And all.
Right.
I mean, they're doing the thing that they normally do, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of state help there, federal family, as they call it, and then they've got the National Guard and even active duty troops, and they're doing a lot of things, right? But the thing that we talked about last week is that there's this whirlwind of stupid conspiracy theories telling everybody that either this isn't happening at all and there's no help coming, or that FEMA is using this as an excuse to take all of everybody's stuff, including their guns, and that they're going to pay them $750.
This is how we're creating more housing. FEMA's coming to snatch it up.
And or bulldoze whole towns and give it to illegal immigrants or whatever bullshit they're spinning.
After they got gender reaffirming care first.
Right,
to get
yes,
that
of
first,
course.
And then they got
And as you know, like you see that like Vance and Trump and all, they're out here saying, Elon is out here saying this stuff that as if it is actually happening. And when they get called on it by the reporters, they go, shut up. And you know, you don't know. And then that's it. We told everybody that this was a big problem because it could eventually lead to real violence. And it has now led to real violence. There's been at least one arrest, or a guy was arrested for threatening a bunch of FEMA people with a bunch of guns. He was like, no, I only had one gun on my hip. There was 2 others in my car. That's fine.
I think it is in North Carolina.
He said, I just wanted to check out what was going on. And I was just going down there to look and see with, you know.
Poll watchers, FEMA watchers.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
all
We're
watchers.
just watching, you know. Voyeuristic, right wing. I just want to be clear that, like, when we tell people, you know, hey, this is a problem and it could lead to violence, and people often will say, you're being alarmist, this is too much. That's not the case. And you got to understand that maybe we might have been alarmist if we were saying this 5-6 years ago, because people would say, oh, well, you know, you're kind of overreacting. But, like, we could see the trend.
Yeah.
We could see it coming. And now that you've got a bunch of people who are living in this alternate reality where a bunch of stuff that isn't happening is happening in real time to them and scaring the living daylights out of them.
Yeah.
And they're all very heavily armed and all somehow believe that God is on their side or whatever. This is a really toxic stew of danger. And it has led to danger. So please, for the love of God, shut up about this stuff. You don't know, okay? Stop spreading misinformation.
But I think we're saying that mis and disinformation is just on that level. This could also be pumped in outside of the country. Like, at this point, the way these networks are set up, the social media networks specifically, like, you know, it could look like it's coming from someone who's in North Carolina, but we know that, like, friggin' from RT to there's just there's a slew of people out there outside of the United States that also influence. The beginning of where
this is injected into the conversation might be foreign or otherwise. We don't know. But I know people personally who I see sharing this.
Right, of course, yeah. And I mean,
they're not Russians. And they're regular people.
But I think the question is, I mean, how do you engage those individuals? And, like, you can try to go the heavy-handed way, but they're just going to dig in deeper to whatever they believe in.
And I usually send a robot in.
Oh, okay.
It's a dangerous job.
They're going to fuck up the robot, too. They said the robots are coming to take
the robots are, because the FEMA robots are coming to take my house. I shot it with a 50 cal, and it's a robot, so it didn't care.
But also, they're doing that with drones.
Yeah.
It's
not, the robot is
turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, exactly, right. I think you even look at this guy here, what is it, Welcome Jacob Parsons. Some of this, to me, is, I would assume people think this is a real threat, but then also, like, I kind of respect the way you want to be part of the story. I think there are other people in this country who, I don't know a better way to say this, but, like, maybe their lives, they want to have something.
They want to go down as 3 names like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, they just want to, like, but inject themselves into, like, the story of whatever people think this new revolution is coming, or, like, but
get cast in a music video, idiots. Don't do stuff like this.
Yeah, but I mean, for FEMA, it really sucks because they're spending resources to kind of now battle this. As we
also,
talked about
their people got pulled out of 2 counties in North Carolina because they were under threat. Like, that's hurting the people who need the help.
There's the bigger.
And you're also talking about that there's thousands of these federal workers who are now being targeted. Some of them have been doxxed. Some of them have had people, you know, calling in death threats and stuff. Several of them had anti-Semitic death threats thrown at them. You know, it's like you're just a person trying to help. You've taken this job. Look, nobody gets paid a lot working at FEMA, right? Okay, we're Washingtonians. We understand federal government does not pay that well compared to the private sector for what you could be doing. They've chosen to take this job where they're not going to get paid well, where they're going to be in really bad circumstances most of the time. Almost all the people they're going to meet are going to be in their absolute worst day of their lives ever.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly taxing scenario to live through on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis. The last thing they need is some wahoo threatening them with a fucking AK. Stop this shit. What is wrong with you people? You know better. You all know better. That's the thing. They know better. Stop sharing this dumb shit.
We're beyond that.
I know. That barge has sailed.
Yeah, it's gone.
Get on the barge. Okay. Speaking of North Carolina, we can't leave the great state of North Carolina without talking about our favorite North Carolinian, Mark Robinson, who's currently still the lieutenant governor of that state.
He's still that?
Which means that Roy Cooper has to stay in that state.
Yeah, he can't leave.
Because if he leaves out of the state, Robinson is technically governor while he's out of the state. That is true. So you may remember that we covered this on the show, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
That CNN reported that Mark Robinson used this screen name, Mini Soldier, all over the internet, from Pinterest to Nude Africa and Ashley Madison and everything in between. And he used this, and he didn't just use it, when he was commenting on Pinterest stories or whatever, but also commenting on porn stuff and getting into political fights in the comment section of porn videos. Like a regular person who should be governor of that state. He's running for governor on the ticket of I don't know. Okay, so that all was true. And, they had reams
There's
of
a lot
stuff.
of evidence around that. I guess it would still be allegedly, but...
It's alleged.
There's a lot of evidence on this.
But somebody whose screen name is Mini Soldier, who wrote their name in as Mark Robinson with his address and his attributes and everything else, called themselves a black Nazi. And if the hood fits, So we all were like, oh, this is pretty silly. And then his campaign started to fall apart.
Everybody left.
All of his staff left. They all resigned. And we were like, all right. So this is a dumb move. This guy is going to lose. But he's out of the news. He's done, right? We can stop caring about him.
Well, we're in the era of no shame, so.
Incorrect. He's right back in the news. Why is he back in the news?
He has a lawsuit for defamation.
He's suing CNN for $50 million worth of damages. He also names a man named, get this.
I love it.
Louis Money.
Mr. Money.
Louis Money.
Louis Money, Mr. Money.
Louis Money is named as a defendant. Yeah.
You
want to know who Louis Love Money, by the way. That's his full name. Louis Love Money.
It's not.
CNN and Louis Love Money, who spoke to the assembly in the newspaper that reported this stuff from Louis Love Money was called The Assembly. They spoke to in September, intentionally shared defamatory statements about Robinson to interfere with the election. That's what he's suing for. Now, Louis Love Money gets in the story because he was the guy who owned the porn shop that Mark Robinson visited on a daily basis.
To socialize,
says Mark Robinson, because he worked at the Papa John's next door, and he would bring over pizza and hang out in the nudie booths, sometimes until the morning. Because that's normal for somebody to do. Look, I don't know if we can call ourselves normal guys, but we're relatively mainstream, average people, right? Have you spent the night in a nudie booth?
No.
Ever?
No.
Pizza notwithstanding.
No.
Have you ever gone to a porn store to socialize and hang out?
No.
I didn't know that was a thing you could even do.
That there are even porn stores. Well, this was like 25 years ago, but so I had a friend who got a job at our local porn chain in the Northern Virginia area is MVC. That's the old Manassas Video Club, if you wanted to know.
You learned something new.
Yeah, they've changed their name since, but there were several outlets around.
I thought that was just like even like in Arrow's video. Didn't they used to have like the curtain up?
They did.
Certain places had a curtain up. You go back. I would be worried, and it took me a while from as a kid to be like, why the fuck is there a curtain? Oh,
yeah. So I had a friend who got a job at MVC. And every once in a while, he would call and be like, hey, can you pick me up from work? And like, all right, cool, I'll give you a ride, whatever. But I didn't go in there and, like, hang out with him.
Just lean on the couch.
And he was even my friend, right? I didn't just go and, like, all right, you got half an hour till your shift's over. Just hang out with him at the counter.
Want a slice?
Yeah, no, I did not do that. You know what I did? I showed up exactly when it was time to pick him up, and if I was early, I waited in the car. because you don't hang out in the porn store.
Yeah, you don't hang out there.
Especially if you're going to be governor.
I would assume if you're going there that everybody's kind of focused in on like what they're doing. Feels like a taking a piss at a stall type thing.
Exactly. Everybody in there knows what they're there to do. Let's not make this weird.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm not like, hey, what are you picking up?
Right. This isn't the library. We're not asking for recommendations. Although apparently maybe he was, right? He was in the comment section on all the videos.
Maybe.
So like the precursor to the comment section on Nude Africa was hanging out in the porn store, eating pizza.
Even on that story, he linked up with some of those people from the
apparently.
Maybe they linked up at this porn store.
It's part of his campaign. So
that's what you have the what's the name or your kitchen counter meeting.
Or
you bring your constituents in like, hey, where are we meeting at?
We're gonna have a kitchen table discussion about the issues that matter to regular Americans. Like, why has the nudie booth gone up $1.50 in the last 6 months in Biden's economy?
Lou money.
Yeah. Louis love money.
Louis, of course we know why.
Louis does love money. That's why he ran a porn store.
Exactly.
I mean, all right. Robinson said that he was like, just a gregarious, outgoing guy who made friends easily, and he wanted to hang out.
Me too.
Yeah,
Out there.
No. Okay, North Carolina. Okay. Are we done with North Carolina?
Yeah,
now?
it's too much energy.
This poor place has taken a beating. Much like, never mind.
Nope,
not touching that with the pole. There's no way to get out of this. I don't want to
go.
Waddle da. All right, that's it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You're listening to ChipChat on Bellwood Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
Your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. Your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. My children aren't going hungry. I'll do it. I'll drink your blood. And I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like sizing up? I'm gonna haul him up that chain. Chop his ass up, size it up. I'm gonna haul him up that chain. Chop, 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 chop. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, "Oh, I killed a cow out back, baby." You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. That's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first. Okay, it's true. I stayed up late last night, so I had half the turbo force this morning. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals, the the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals. That's turbo force. 5 different types of caffeine. Doesn't have the crash. 5 different types of caffeine. That's turbo force. 5 different types of caffeine. Doesn't have the crash. 5 different types of caffeine. That's turbo force. Plant derived. 500 milligrams. Slow burn. The very best. I want a long burn. Plant derived. 500 milligrams. Slow burn. The very best. That's turbo force. I tell you what, I'm feeling a lot of energy. My brain's sure working good right now. Good right now. Good right now. Pre-workout, next level, turbo force. Turbo force. Pre-workout, next level, turbo. It's turbo force. And get the fish oil.
My buddies and I were like, that we're at least as stupid as he is. We could.
Go ahead. Tell the story.
Yeah.
So a guy selling pixels for
Yeah,
$1
so
a
in
piece.
the late '90s, when the internet was still relatively young, this college kid, he gets this idea. There's about 1 million pixels on a computer screen. He says, I'm going to buy a website and sell each pixel for $1, and then I'll keep this web page up in perpetuity. And if you buy a block of pixels, 100 pixels or something, you could actually put a logo or a name or something,
Sure.
a little image up there. Buy as many pixels as you want. And sure enough, dude sold every pixel on that screen. And college kid had $1 million cash in his pocket, and all he had to do is keep this web page up. Cost him, $100 a year or something, right?
Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Really good.
What he needs is 5 different kinds of caffeine.
So,
It's Turbo Force.
so my buddies and I, we said, well, shit, we're at least as stupid as he is. We could come up with a better idea. Let's go get some, beer and come up with something stupid. And sure, so our get rich stupid idea was we need to go to Dracula's castle in Romania.
Okay.
All right.
It's a
And
good
then-
start. We're
yeah.
already
I
off.
love it already.
Yeah.
Off to the races.
So then we get like gothic looking glass bottles, and then we, take the bottles inside Dracula's castle, get a big old bellows, and start blowing air.
Full of air.
of Dracula's castle
yeah.
air.
His hair.
Right? And then you got to have like some people chanting in the background.
Naturally.
I mean,
Yeah,
of course. And then cork it up, wax it, import it to the U.S. and sell
Dracula air.
Dracula air.
Yeah. It sells
Yeah,
itself.
obviously, people,
Yeah.
especially around this time of the year.
I'll buy 4.
Four air.
Yeah, I'll
Well, the
take
question
4
is, what
airs.
do you do? Do you do miniature bottles you can hang in a necklace, or do you do a big
How do you
bottle?
consume
and
it? Do you
start
sniff
huffing
it?
Well,
Yeah, I would-
that's up to the user.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not here to dictate.
That's
You know,
right.
when you get a package and it comes with those like little bags full of air,
Yeah.
you get to you can open them and smell wherever they came from. You're like, oh, these came from Chicago.
Well, we were going to
Oh,
have a
this is what
whole,
Chicago smells like.
it's going to be the bellows and the chanting, and we're going to have a whole thing,
You got to show people how you fill the bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, they
Right,
think you're bullshitting them. And this isn't Dracula air.
We'll have a little card on
It's
it
a
with the
Shreveport,
suggestive
Louisiana
chant.
air.
Just a chance. Certificate. You need a
Certificate of authenticity.
Yeah,
Yeah, naturally.
so-
Of course. Numbered.
Yeah.
For
Numbered, exactly.
it's like the first NFT. Maybe you can say,
Presidents do it.
Can you put a cape on it and tell them it's a trading card? Okay, so now it's time for the Tez Talk.
Yes.
We're at very high Tez quotient on this show because we're talking about a lot of environmental
A lot of
things.
environmental stuff.
All right, so
Look at these dead ass birds.
There it
Thank you.
is. All right, of course. No, this is a very interesting story. There's water showing up in a very interesting place around the world.
Mexico,
No.
African Mexico.
that's very spot on.
Yes.
Yes, in the Sahara Desert. There are striking images that show large lakes etched into the rolling sand dunes after one of the most arid, barren places in the world was hit with its first floods in decades. So the Sahara experiences rain. Right?
Sure.
It gets a little bit of rain.
Every once in a while.
I think over a small period of time in September, it did a year's worth of rain.
Nearly 3 inches of rainfall happened all at once.
Yes.
But normally that's like a year's worth of
That's a
rain.
lot of rain for anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nearly 8 inches in some parts of the
Yeah.
region. And it got the images that you just saw there, which is right. And also, too, there was a time on this earth where there were lakes. Like, this wasn't always a desert.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece that was
And it's
interesting to
been
me.
getting bigger because
Right.
that's how deserts work.
But I think what's interesting to me is that the same storms that brought this water also flooded towns in Morocco as well.
Yeah.
Too,
And
bunch
killed a
of them.
lot of people.
Killed a lot of people.
Washed whole villages away.
Yeah,
It was like their version of Asheville.
yeah, exactly. And I think you're gonna start to see these different weather patterns that will create things we haven't seen, or I don't think humans probably have ever actually seen on this earth. But yeah, like a place like the Sahara, you'll have these lakes that were forming, and you could see them in satellite images. If you look up the story on CNN, they actually
They had
show
one of
the
those,
video,
those
yeah,
things that you could scroll
before and
over.
after. And you see where this is just completely desert, and then there's this blue, like it
Yeah.
just appears inside and there's other small pockets.
And
of
you
it
might
too.
think, okay, well, this is good for the desert. It's not good for the desert, right? The desert is a whole ecosystem that operates in a arid condition.
Right.
So if you introduce a bunch of water to it, it's not good.
Yeah, it could trick things as well too. Like whatever. Let's just say
whatever plants are there are adapted to a low water environment.
Right.
You introduce a bunch of water, you kill them.
Exactly.
You ever overwater an orchid?
You see what happens.
You know, it's a thing. I think we're gonna probably have a story like this every week at this point.
Yeah, I think we're moving
two or
towards
three.
that.
You know, we've had wild hurricanes destroying several states at once. We've got lakes in the middle of the Sahara. What else is going to happen?
But yeah, I think it just goes back to we're going to see this planet continue.
Mississippi's going to learn to read.
Oh, God gracious.
It's going to be
Why does
weird.
he attack these people?
They can't hear us.
Okay. Now he says now you're calling them.
They don't have electricity.
This is insane.
I'm not making that up.
This is insane.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else to say?
No,
Anything else to say
about
about your lakes in the sand?
No lakes in the sand. Let's
just make us cry.
Yeah, let's.
Fred already made us sad about the environment and the world ending, and you're like, here's some more examples of the world ending.
Well, we can move to another.
Stop bumming us out.
We can move to another part.
Speaking of bumming us out, let's talk about Gaza.
Yeah.
You know, the fun stuff. Okay. The initial thing that we were going to talk about here is that there was a letter sent by Tony Blinken and Lloyd Austin to state and SecDef, respectively, to Netanyahu that said, you need to let more aid into Gaza or we're going to cut off the weapons. And they signed it. Yeah. And it didn't say we're going to cut off the weapons, but it said, like, we might cut off the weapons. Right. And they released it publicly. Yeah. Which is kind of a very big deal.
That's huge, yeah.
Right? And because
they have to get approval from
the whole thing is so you can just say that Biden did this essentially.
Yeah.
That the administration said you need to stop blockading Gaza the way that you are or we're going to cut off the weapons. And specifically this was in response to what they decided to do with northern Gaza where they're like, you know, Hamas is still active there or is back active there, and they're trying to get them out, and they're like, that's it. Killing everybody hasn't worked because they keep moving around. What we're going to do is seal everything up and say nobody's getting in, nobody's getting out, no stuff's getting in, no stuff's getting out. Everybody's going to either surrender or starve to death. And if there's Hamas in there, they're going to surrender or starve too. Right. Which is stupid because, of course, they've got tunnels and they're just going to leave, and the only people who are going to starved to death are the civilians who are there already.
Who've already been starved.
Right. So the Americans were like, no, man, that's too far. We were fine if you did it to the whole Gaza Strip, but just not to sections of it at a time. So they put the pressure on them. They sent them this letter. And, like, what we wanted to talk about is, like, how that impacted the election here, right? Huge. Because one of the things that the Democrats are having a hard time doing is the younger voters and other groups that are critical to the Democratic coalition are pretty pissed off about the way that Israel is conducting this war and America's support for that.
They've been pissed off for a whole year.
And they've been mad about this for a year. They voted non-committed in all these primaries and stuff, and we need these people to come out and vote, even if they have a lot of...
Your beloved Michigan is a place where...
Michigan is definitely one of the battlegrounds here. It's a large Arab population. Even if you are pissed off about this, which you are right to be upset about, and to call it a genocide and whatever you want to say about it, that's all legitimate. Understand that not voting is giving, every not vote is a vote for Trump and makes that situation in Gaza and everywhere else a billion times worse.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think even more cynical, though, I think the American populace doesn't actually necessarily care that much.
No,
I think
Americans don't actually care. It doesn't cost celeb.
Yeah, it's as the...
I'm not saying that the people who have family over there don't care. They care.
They do, yes.
I'm saying that the people who are saying that, like, this is abhorrent and I'm going to withhold my vote, who are otherwise going to be untouched by the results of a Trump presidency, fuck you. Yeah. You're doing a disservice to a lot of people who are going to be drastically impacted by a Trump presidency because you think it's cool or because you think it's funny or the right thing. That's garbage.
I also think you could easily look at Kamala Harris versus Joe Biden and look at the track record of what Joe Biden has spoken about, how he's felt about Israel's whole career, and there's going to be a different policy with Kamala Harris. Now, I don't think it strays too far of what the American.
It's not going to be a miles difference.
No, but it will be different.
I think even if you just let the Biden administration continue, you'd see an evolution in the stance towards this too, because really the issue is that the position of the Americans has not changed very much over a period of time. It's the position of the Netanyahu right-wing extremist government that has deviated too far away from the type of governance that the Americans have historically supported.
Yeah, this has not been it.
This is not what we signed up for. You know, when we said, "Oh, it's our greatest ally in the Middle East. It's the only democracy." We wanted we would tolerate pretty rough, dehumanizing treatment of people in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, so long as it wasn't whole-scale genocide.
Right.
But now we have crossed the line. We found the line. It's at 40,000 dead.
Which is insane.
Which is an undercount.
Yeah, it's undercount, yeah.
We need a robot to go look for all those dead people in the rubble. Yeah. That's dangerous work. It's not safe for people to do. We've long passed that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was what we were going to talk about. And then today, this afternoon, as we're getting ready for the show, news breaks. What news broke?
Israel has successfully killed another top Hamas leader.
The top Hamas leader. Yeah. Yahya Sinwar was confirmed dead.
Confirmed, yeah.
Yep, they killed him and got his body and took it back to Israel for DNA testing. Because remember, they had him in captivity for 20 years.
Which seems to be, from what the reporting is on this, that this was kind of a chance encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
who knows? I mean, but
take it when you get it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any fuss from me about killing this guy. He's the worst. He deserves to be obliterated. But how does this affect things? We don't know because it's really, really recent.
Yeah.
But there's some possibilities here that I want to make sure everybody understands. I'll explain how this could affect the war in Israel, and then you explain how this could affect the election here in the States. So how this could affect the war in Israel. Netanyahu has said that he doesn't have a plan for Gaza. And every time anybody's like, "Oh, what are you going to do about Gaza? What's the end game here?"
He's like, after plans.
Yeah, he's like, there is no day after. The mission is to destroy Hamas completely. And everybody's like, that might not really be possible. But since he needs a goalpost of some kind, this could be a goalpost. And he can say, we've killed their top 3 guys. We've degraded all of their stuff. We've killed X number of fighters. We've destroyed this many missiles. And we've obliterated their infrastructure. We have destroyed Hamas. And he could call this a win and stop. Or at least pull back and stop massacring everybody and start rebuilding. He could do that. Also, there's this issue of the hostages.
Still.
There is a discussion that Sinwar might have been one of the major roadblocks to getting a deal for a ceasefire in exchange for the hostages. And with him out of the picture, is it possible that the diplomats in Qatar and wherever else might actually be able to swing this? That's a little more iffy in my mind, but it is a possibility.
I doubt, yeah.
We all have a chance here to gain some success from the killing of a terrorist leader.
Right.
So those are the 2 angles of things that could happen in Israel. The Israeli population wants this war to end like a year ago. I mean, they want this over with. So they'd be willing to accept this victory and walk away. How does this affect the American election?
I mean, there's a few ways that I've thought through this. I guess, one, what do we really think Benjamin Netanyahu's end goal is? I think, one, the first thing is to stay out of prison. Right?
Stay out of jail.
But I think when you think about domestically here, Trump presidency would seem to be more beneficial to him. I don't see any way comparatively, right, to
short
Harris.
term maybe.
Short term, right? We know that I think President Trump is a lot more sympathetic to him and
to him personally.
To him personally, yeah. I think at the end of the day, this is already kind of baked in. I think we're 21 days or maybe even under that.
Yeah. 20 days.
20 days, right, to the election. Like, I don't see this shifting anything at this point here.
There's a chance. Do you want to know where the chance is?
What, if they say there's a ceasefire?
If they get a ceasefire.
I don't think that's possible. That's not happening before the election.
If they get a ceasefire and they get hostages back, Like they've got this deal ready to go, but Sinwar was the problem. And a bunch of hostages, especially ones with dual citizenship, American citizenship, come back safely, and the killing stops. It gives the anti-war folks an opportunity to say, okay, message received, the pressure was put on, it stopped, and we can go safely vote for Harris. And it also gives the people who want the hostages back and for Israel to be strong and be victorious and for the Jewish vote to work the right way. There is an opportunity here.
I think, I don't think that's going to happen.
It's a very compressed timeline.
Yeah, I mean,
voting has already started.
Voting has already started, right? And in high clips in certain places, right? I just think at this point it's kind of too late. But also, I don't think that even those votes, and we'll see, right? I could be terribly wrong on this, but in these states, specifically in Michigan, like, I don't think they'll look at their ballot and say, oh, you know what? Either they're not going to show up and not vote at all, or they go there and vote third party or something like that.
They're not going to look and say Harris got a ceasefire?
But that would need to happen. I don't believe
that's what I'm saying. That is
a
possibility.
There's one man who has to agree to that as well, too.
Bibi.
Yeah. And that he hasn't shown anywhere in this process.
I think combined with the letter, and I think that maybe there's something behind that we're not really
could be that. I'll give you that.
At the moment.
I'll give you that.
There's a THAAD battery there to protect them and all that. I think basically the conversation goes like this. Bibi, we put a THAAD here to cover your ass, but this has got to stop. You've gone way too far. We can't do anything about this. You get a chance to go out on a win, sign this fucking deal, or we're going to pull the THAAD battery out.
But I don't think it's possible to sign the deal until we get to what we talked about earlier, is what a day after plan looks like. And we know that there's no day after plan.
No, just ceasefire is good enough.
To start.
It's good. The THAAD battery does two things. It protects Israel and it gives us leverage. You want this THAAD battery, don't you? Yes, we do. Well, then fucking chill out.
I don't see it ending. I really don't.
I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Because what about Lebanon? Does it end there?
No. But nobody has a problem with that yet. It's too small scale. The number of people dead is in the several single digits of thousands, not in the tens of thousands. Americans have an appetite for that.
Yeah, that is true.
I don't know. When I become Secretary of State, that's the way I'm going to diplomat. We're going to give you a THAAD battery, and then we're going to tell you better behave your damn selves, or we'll take it away. Let the Iranians pummel you.
That's crazy.
Hey,
that is insane.
Is that not diplomacy?
I don't know. I don't think
it was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
There you go.
Everybody just said,
that's carrot and stick.
That's carrot and stick. I'm giving you the carrot. It's a THAAD battery. I'm showing you the stick. I'll take the THAAD battery away.
It's the last part you said.
You have kids. This is how this works. Yeah.
It's that last part.
Possibly. You never know. I mean, maybe they won't.
Maybe they won't.
But I'll take my THAAD battery away.
Isn't that the whole concept of all this anyways? Is that if America pulls back, that gives... I don't think that's true. But I think they say that it gives the green light to other countries.
That is the concept of Team America World Police, yes.
But I don't think, the Iranians, I don't think they would move that way. Because, again, they want concessions from us in other areas as well, too. Everything is a little too connected.
How do you apply pressure to somebody who's already demonstrated they don't give a fuck?
That's a good, You take away. You
give them something they need, and then you
take it away.
Threaten to take it away unless they behave. I don't know how else you do it. What could you possibly hold over Bibi? No more cigars for you.
No, there's really nothing. No.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed nothing.
No, he's absolutely okay. We're gonna skip the next break and just keep right on going until Brian gets to get out of here. All right, this is about robots though, and we have an expert here.
We do.
Okay, so Leon. Do you guys hang out at robot nerd conventions or whatever?
No.
You never met him?
Never met him.
Do you want to meet him?
Sure.
What if he wants to invest in your company?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what the hell are we doing? What's happening?
See what he did to Twitter?
No, good. Anyways.
Okay. Well, rockets work.
Rockets do work.
They work. They work good. They caught him with the chopsticks and everything.
That was impressive.
It was very impressive.
Very impressive.
Unbelievable, in fact. Okay, so Leon is out here, and he's made some robots, some humanoid-looking robots. They look a little familiar. We all were like, oh, I thought I'd seen these before. Turns out we had seen them before. Where did we see them before?
iRobot.
We did. We saw them in iRobot. We saw Will Smith fighting the robots. Then so the guy who made that movie was like, hey, man, you like ripped off my robots. And Elon is like, what are you talking about? I rip off a lot of things. You'll have to be more specific. And he was like, oh, well, here's a lawsuit. So, yeah. Hey, Elon, can I have my design back, please?
Yeah, very direct.
I mean, that's an interesting way to lawsuit. Okay, so it's not just the robots, though, right? It's a lot of things from the movie. Look at the shape of the cars. Look at the shape of the transports. Look at the shape of the what people are wearing. It is eerily similar. Some of this is probably like by, like why are all airplanes shaped the same way? It's because like physics dictates that's the shape that works, right? But like, it's hard not to see the similarities.
I mean, he's also in the business of selling these things, and if you're able to like connect them to things like, I mean,
making them a little familiar. Is
a
helpful.
little familiar, right, for folks of a specific. And if you think who will be coming of age for these things, it's folks who have seen that movie, to be honest.
So
I don't think they look as similar.
They don't look that similar.
No.
I mean, I think you could find 50 other designs that from other movies, books, or other things that, and just generic drawings. If you look at the transport, it's reminiscent of
Star Wars,
of trains.
Yeah, like Art Deco era trains.
Exactly.
Yeah, the streamliners.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of those design elements come from a lot of other places.
It's too hard to pin down.
And I recently, I went to sort of like a reveal or something like that of a company that I have put some money into. And I mentioned to one of their pitch guys that, I mean, your robots, the reason why I wanted to invest into this is it has a similarity to an anime that I used to watch. And, they were, happy to know that. And again, I see this and it reminds you, I'm not a fan of Ion or whatever his new name is. Leon? Oh, it's Leon, I'm sorry. But I just
Musketeer.
Yes, but I just feel that it's kind of like that Coke and Pepsi thing. I know you're going to get some inspiration from somewhere, but I do feel like the makers of iRobot should get some compensation out of this, though. That's my opinion.
I mean, obviously, if it's a humanoid-shaped robot, that sort of limits the design of it. But speaking of robots, let's ask a question, right? You were talking about earlier that robots are keen for replacements of things where it's dangerous or dull or dirty, right?
Yep.
And like a lot of those things probably don't end up being humanoid shaped because we're kind of the wrong shape for a lot of the things that we do. And why do we have ergonomic injuries and stuff? Yeah, we're not the ideal shape for a lot of stuff. So, like, is it likely that the robots in the future that do things would ever really be human shaped, or only just for movies and stuff?
Yeah, generally not. So, in the world we interact in, there's valves and knobs and things that are designed to work with the human form, right?
Yeah.
And that really, a lot of those basic things you want to do, like pick up a pair of scissors and cut paper or something, that's extraordinarily difficult to like have a robot pick it up and do something like that. If you wanted to cut paper, picking up a pair of scissors with humanoid hands and cutting it is a terrible way to do it.
You would just make a set of shears that does it automatically.
So what you're going to start seeing is instead of a robot trying to replicate human behavior, you're going to have the entire process redesigned so that it's not a
human-centric process.
Exactly. Yeah. And going back to what I'm working on, the tanks, these crude oil tanks were designed to be human inspected,
accessed
right?
by people, yeah.
Well, they're redesigning the tanks. Tanks that are going into service now, they're actually building them in a way that makes it easier for robots to access them. They're making sure that areas that might have been really difficult for a robot to access before, they're eliminating some of those zones. So they're redesigning it a little bit to make it
because
interact with robots.
the limits of human form are no longer the limits anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, picking up a screwdriver and driving in a screw is a really hard thing.
It is. It's crazy.
You just redesign it so there's a different grip and a different way of interfacing with that, and you don't try and replicate the human way of doing it.
Right.
You just create a robotic.
But that requires a lot of imagination because you have to think of a way that
it
doesn't
takes
occur to you
time, right?
naturally.
Because picking up a screwdriver and doing a screw robotically, if you had a human, that means both a human could do it and a robot can do it.
Right.
And there has to be a shift from sort of everyone accepting, hey, this isn't
Robot.
a human job anymore. We're just going to have robots do this. And once the robot can do it, it doesn't go back the other way. A human can't jump in there and do it too easily anymore, right?
I mean, I think about the welding robots that you see on the assembly lines and stuff, and they bear almost no resemblance to anything
it's big
human
robotic
at all.
KUKA arms that are moving in, all kinds of crazy
But they're the
axes.
right shape and form for the job that they do.
Yeah, so that's what you're going to see is a lot of these processes reimagined.
A lot of the time that you hear people discussing like human form in robots, they're talking about them in terms of like home use or home health aids or something like that, because there's a sort of comfort level about having the robot be something recognizable.
Yeah, telemedicine's getting big for sure, yeah.
But is it, I mean, are we going to get past that thing too? Like, do I need the robot that helps Granny get out of bed in the morning does it need to look human, or am I going to be okay with it looking like a forklift?
It doesn't need to look human, but it needs to not look intimidating.
Right? Yeah.
So I developed a robot at one point for a big company, and the robot was like 9 foot tall and 600 pounds, and we actually brought in industrial designers to develop a shell that goes around the
So it's
robot.
not so scary looking.
Yep, and specifically to make it look not scary, right? So that it looked like something you could be around.
Make it like R2-D2 as opposed to
Exactly.
something more terrifying. Okay, I get it. So Leon stole the design from everybody. Got it. Okay, cool.
10 years to save the West, leading the revolution against globalism, socialism, and the liberal establishment. Liz Truss.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She wrote a book? And Skyhorse has it? Wow. Is the forward by the lettuce? That would
No,
be hilarious.
no. Steve Bannon.
It's a cabbage. Okay. Steve Bannon is a cabbage.
It's every year. He's batting like...
He's still in jail.
He's batting like 600 on this friggin' site here.
Yeah, I think it might be his company.
Yeah, right, might be.
He's writing the forward for everything. All right, speaking of Bannon, the guy that he nominally worked for or does work for, I don't know. The orange guy.
Yeah.
So he's campaigning, right? Everybody's out campaigning. It's that time of year. It's been that time of year for the last 17 years.
Yeah,
it's never not that time of year.
Yeah, at this point.
Okay, and we all know what a rally looks like, and we know what regular candidate rally looks like. We
We've
also
seen
know we know specifically what a Trump rally looks like.
Yeah, we've seen him in 2016. We've seen him.
and it was on TV all the time. And
The one that killed our friend in 2020. Why am I blanking on his name?
who did we kill in 2020? Herman Cain.
Herman Cain.
Yeah. He got COVID from that super spreader event called a Trump rally.
Crazy.
So, we know what these look like, right? It's somebody comes in and speaks and says a bunch of things that aren't true, and then Trump comes out and he says a bunch of things that aren't true, and then he plays YMCA, and then he throws hats, and then he leaves, right? But he's on for like 2 hours, and the people leave, and then he says that they don't leave, and then eventually he gets tired, and okay. But something new happened this week, and I do want to say that when this first happened, I was very hesitant to include this in the show. Because first of all, I thought it kind of wasn't a story. It didn't seem newsworthy to me.
Right, no.
And also, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I felt like it was not fair.
Wow, that's very deep coming from you.
Because I felt like this was actually picking on somebody who is not there.
Yeah, you're picking on the elderly.
Not just the elderly, but the mentally deranged. It's one thing when he's saying racist stuff and he's just a stupid, racist, vile asshole. It's another when this thing happens. And the thing that we're talking about is he spent 38 minutes swaying around on stage listening to Ave Maria and like Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. And
little YMCA.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what happened. He had a Q&A hosted by famous dog killer Kristi Noem. I have the question mark after that statement because that is not a sentence that I ever thought I would say.
Ultimate handguns.
By Kristi Noem?
No, sorry.
Great for killing your dog. So, dog killer Kristi Noem hosted this event where she was the moderator of what they call a town hall. And we've seen these before, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders goes out there and does these things where like a friendly audience with a friendly moderator sits with him and tosses him softball questions like, when was the last time you saw a windmill give people cancer? And he gets to go, oh, well, gives cancers and the whales are all dying and nobody goes there anymore. The whales are too bad,
Look at the birds, dead-ass birds.
Dead-ass birds, there's so many birds. we love birds, so many birds. But so he was at this event and it got very hot in there. Yeah. Okay, and somebody fainted. And they're like, is there a doctor around? And it was a Trump rally, so no. Because, no. Ronnie Johnson, whose real name is Ronnie Jackson, wasn't even there, and he used to be a real doctor, but he has lost his license because he keeps picking fights with the sheriff. And he's a congressman now, so it's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So Trump, stopped the event and was like, play Ave Maria while the paramedics go rescue this person.
Forgot the best quote. Anybody else would like to faint?
No, that was the second time.
That was the second time.
So they revive this person or they get him out of there or whatever, and then he goes back to talking, and like a few minutes later, another person faints.
Okay, I did think there was two people.
And he's like, anybody else want to faint? Nah, I'm just kidding. And then he's like, but we care. Clean up the blood, please. I don't like it. I don't want to see it. And then again, he was like, play Ave Maria. Do you know this song?
I've heard, yes, now.
It's a famous song.
It's a famous song, yeah.
It's not an uplifting song. It sounds like church music at the best. It's not. It sounds like the thing you play when somebody's dead.
Yeah.
Because it's what you play when somebody's dead. So he's like, but don't play that version that you played before. Play the Pavarotti version. Which meant he got to tell the story about how Pavarotti was a bad guy to everybody but nice to him. Which is a story he likes to tell a lot. Because of course he does. Yeah. He was a bad guy to a lot of people, but he loved me. I don't know why. Little Rocket Man. Okay. So he did this, and then Kristi Noem was like, all right, we're going to go back to questions.
No, we're not.
And he was like, no. You know what? It's hot in here. Some people think that's okay. It's fine. Why don't we all just listen to some music? Play my music. And then he spent 40 minutes standing on stage, DJing to himself by shouting his next request to whoever's job it is to play the stuff, swaying gently back and forth and bopping a little as he did it.
Like a Diddy party.
Yo. Get your own bell for that. I'm not.
Hot.
That was pretty slick.
Yeah, there you go.
I wonder who examines those oil tanks.
Oh.
Do you have a robot that can help him out?
I don't think so.
No comment. Okay, smart.
There you go.
So he did this thing, and like his teleprompter even came up. It was like, take a few more questions, please. Somebody got a photo of that.
Because you're running for president.
But he didn't. Okay, and then
it's very weird.
Then he
very weird.
He's into this, and he's near the end of bopping, and he's like, nobody's leaving. Like, did he think he was playing them out? The doors were locked. That's why nobody was leaving. That's why they fainted in there.
God.
This is a very bizarre thing to have happen. And in a campaign where so much focus is being paid to, was Biden cognitively with it?
Yeah.
If you want to make that criticism that he wasn't, I think there's several examples that you can point to and say he wasn't. He's not all the way there. Not that
I think we talked about this years ago at this point now, but where I was like, Why isn't he on the bully pulpit talking about voting rights or like things you like? Even if you're not going to be able to pass it in Congress, you could still be out there talking.
Could be, yeah.
But now I'm like,
see why.
Now I'm like, oh,
it's a risk.
Jesus Christ. Okay, got it.
Okay, so,
Understood.
Like, it doesn't mean that his team can't still run the country, right? Okay, but in a race where Trump is out here calling Kamala intellectually compromised, that's putting it mildly, he called her the R word.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is going to help him with all the parents like me. I just...
This was jarring. And I think the media...
This is a very big problem.
I think the media is talking about this. I don't think it's going under something under right.
No, but it took a beat or two for them to, like, figure out how to talk about this safely.
Yeah, I mean, but it seems to be coupled also with the obviously continuous remarks about turning the military on the people, and like there's enough. And I think Kamala's doing a great job of highlighting this and like, this is what he's saying.
Showing clips of him at her events is probably a great move because it just show and going on Brett Baer and like
that was
saying, yo, you took that shit way out of context. That was a response to a different question, and I know better, and you're not pulling that shit on me.
Yeah.
That was tough. And he doesn't interview a lot of lawyers, real lawyers, you know, like her. Howard lawyers, just like point that out. But the media is having trouble with this. They finally come to terms where they're willing to write articles where they say, hey, is Trump really all there? The way they were perfectly willing to write those articles about Biden basically for the last 10 years. And then now they're like, oh, is there something wrong with Trump? And now with this, they're like, oh, this is a scared and decrepit old man. Like, and I worry that it goes too far the other way. And they're like too afraid to call this what
it's
it
out
is.
there, though. It's on TV. The voters have seen this. I think the voters...
Doesn't move the needle, though, does it?
I think it does. I think...
For who?
Again...
What's your segment?
Again, it's the segment you don't believe that is there. But if you were on the fence of just not voting for Kamala, you could look... Or let's say you were choosing...
Does this make Haley voters vote for Kamala, or does it make Haley voters just stay home?
I think Haley voters would go out and vote for Kamala.
You think so?
And she's
campaigning for Trump.
Yeah, she is campaigning for Trump. They're courting the Haley voter though.
Yeah, I mean that's why going on Fox News and
they're
having
going
the event with Kinzinger and all that stuff. I understand that.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, but also since she got into the race, I've been the one that says no. I think this should be a win. I mean, I don't think it'll be a blowout. That would be if it was a blowout.
Has to be.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, yeah, but. When we say it, we know she's going to win the popular vote. It's by how much.
But the half of the country is still. I mean, okay, we're not.
Yes. Just got to get to 270. We got to get to 270.
What does everybody think though about like highlighting this thing about where Trump basically had? It's not a stroke exactly, but he had a bit of a break with reality there in real time in front of people. He zoned out.
He's done it on that podcast. I forgot who he was on with. He's done it in other places as well too, where like they're asking questions and he's just not like they're making fun of him on the podcast.
Yeah, and he's not noticing.
He's not noticing that either as well too. I mean, I think voters see this.
Are we wrong?
No, I don't think it's wrong.
Are we teasing?
He's running for fucking president. The fuck?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, not wrong.
Should a robot sway for him?
I saw
keep him upright.
I saw it on TV. Everybody else saw it on TV. Like
the guy is unwell, and he's a maniac.
It's up to the voters to go out there, and I think they see that, and I think they'll show that.
I hope it moves the needle. I mean, I don't believe anything does at this point. But
I do. But I think everybody's dug in at this point. Like,
but you think that there's these handful of independent voters that see this and change their vote with 2 weeks to go?
The question is that the white voters who voted for Biden over Trump in 2020.
Who the heck hasn't made a decision?
Yeah, everybody's
that's what I don't understand.
But I'm saying
but
those
you think
folks.
There are
but I don't think it's. I think this was done. I think the change happened once he was out of the race. I think those folks then
so you don't think there's any current undecided?
No. I think now
they were undecided in June, and now
now it's like all right.
Now
after the conventions, after
so why do
debates,
the poll numbers keep moving?
The poll numbers keep moving in her favor.
Well, not most recently. The most recent averages showed that in the 7 states that matter, everything tightened up and Trump gained a little bit of ground on her.
I mean,
what
Polls
is
aren't
moving
that
these things?
accurate.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
give bad data.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, okay. We've talked about this basically since the last time that Trump ran in 2016, that like people will lie to pollsters specifically in regards to their support for Donald Trump, and they'll lie to their friends and family about that too, because they know that it's a reprehensible thing.
What about is there not a segment of voters, and I think specifically women, who might, with their partner, right, with their husbands, and I'd say, hey, husband might be voting for Donald Trump.
But
and
that's,
they might also do the flip of that.
There is
And
actually a substantial bit of polling and information about that the numbers always, Democrats do better with women always, but the gap here is astronomical, and it's 2-1 women are voting Democrat.
Yeah.
And it's the highest it's ever been, but also that the men have swung heavily Republican, including black and brown men.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is astounding to me. There was an interview this week on NPR with a guy who wrote a book. I'm blanking on his name, but it was talking about how what he was getting at was something that I thought was actually really interesting and important. That if we could eliminate the race aspect of politics, that groups of people would disagree within themselves about policy differences. That you would have black folks arguing with each other about tax policy.
Yeah.
But because they're under such a pervasive threat by the Republican establishment and what the Republican Party represents, that it has chosen a lane to be explicitly white supremacist and anti-everything else.
Yeah.
That those conversations within the groups that are oppressed never really get to happen. And I was thinking about what a glorious thing it would be if we got to a place where you and I could be arguing with other people who look exactly like us about the relative size of government or the necessity for regulation instead of the whether we should exist or not.
Yeah. Well, this election is not a policy election.
No.
It's not. It's a
I don't think we're
going to
get to that, to be honest.
No,
with the original sin of this country, it's hard to ever really see that until we get to equity. But it was an aspirational thought.
Yeah, of course.
Sort of like wrapped in this gloomy idea of like, oh no, we're not really getting to realize our full selves and have a real political policy debate about things that matter because we're so busy working out which identity makes you safe in this country.
But remember that the whole structure of the politics was meant for one person from the beginning of this. I mean, again, but the idea is that you keep chipping away at this, right, small d democracy.
Incremental.
Yeah, exactly. And you not that I'm thinking an amendment is coming anytime soon to any of these constitutions. That'd be very difficult. But like you keep fighting for it, right? That's what it has to be.
I'm not saying you stop fighting. I'm just saying that, like, it was an interesting idea, and I wanted to mention it because it did inspire me to think about things in a really different way.
Yeah, but I think there have been, I guess, you would almost say those are like coming together like around class almost in a sense.
Yeah.
And there's been examples of that in this country, and usually when that happens, someone gets killed. Usually, whenever there's, it's specifically whenever poor whites, poor black folks come together.
I think it would be interesting to see a real left-right conversation where the left didn't also have to be the ones who were saying we should have the right to exist for all of these groups of people. Because
it's hard though.
There are trans people who want lower taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hands down.
And
we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, and there's super Catholic Spanish people who want to limit abortion access. But they can't get into that group because they're banned from it.
Right.
And so the full realization of the politics of real divide between conservative and progressive never really gets to happen because the progressives are stuck doing this thing where they're just having to advocate for the bare minimum. Somehow that's progressive.
Well, I mean, eventually, right, the Republican Party has to splinter from what it is now.
They have to get to where the bare minimum is accepted, and then we can actually have a conversation, but that's not happening. The loyal opposition doesn't exist.
Right.
Liz Truss. Get her lettuce. Okay, so you think it moves in? Fred, do you think it moves the needle? Do you want to weigh in on this?
I don't think it moves the needle.
No, it doesn't. Not now. We're too close. When it's baked in, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
So when he loses, is he gonna listen to Ave Maria and sway around?
There's
No, we know
far
he doesn't, he
bigger
loses.
issues people have been overlooking with him, and just because he was swaying, I mean, that's gonna suddenly move them. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. But
I think you could look at him. And
I think this is very clear
look,
evidence of his lack of.
Yeah, I think you could look at him and say, "Yo, he's
wherewithal.
unfit to be
Well,
president."
very definitely.
Unfit, like health.
The people that might sway, how are they seeing this information? On Fox News, they're showing him swaying all over the place.
No, they're not.
I don't
of course
think
they're
so.
not.
Of course they're not.
Right. They're
So-
pretending this never even happened.
That's my point. So they're not even seeing it.
But did enough women on Fox News watch her interview and say, "Hey, you know," and specifically suburban white women?
Yeah.
Did enough of them?
I don't
because-
like the way that guy was talking to her because
Yeah.
that's the way I get talked to by my husband.
And do they go in when they're in the privacy of the voter booth? Do they kind of? I think the exit polls on this that's the polls that matter in a sense to me.
I don't think they're going to tell the truth there either.
We'll
they
see.
got to go home to these guys.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'd be interested to see what the numbers play out on that.
I wouldn't publicly slander the Jets because I have to go home to somebody who loves them, even though they're obviously very bad. She
Cannibal
doesn't watch the show, so I'm safe.
Cannibal killers, monsters with an appetite for murder and the taste of human flesh. Next to Fix It or Forget It, soups and stews.
Of course. Okay, you hear the music, which means we've come to the end of the show. We want to say thank you to Fred
Thanks for having me.
hanging out and teaching us about the robots. So one more time, people can get involved or they can follow the stuff at?
Yeah, you can find us at appliedimpactrobotics.com.
Okay, and if they want to invest, they can
Absolutely.
contact you through there.
That's it.
We've got $25.
All right.
How many shares can we buy for $25?
That doesn't get you much.
Can we get our name on the side of the robot?
Probably not.
Okay. Always trying. Thank you to Leon for making the creepy robots. Thank you to our radio partners, the Europa Clipper, the Asia Minor, and the Childless Cat Monitor. Those are all real things.
Childless cat monitor.
Yeah. Thanks to NOTN for keeping us on for another week, maybe. Don't know. Thanks to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as me playing golf, which I did this week. So,
oh, good for you.
Yeah, your clubs have really come in handy.
There we go. I'm glad.
They're getting used.
There we go. Good.
Twice now.
There we go. That's good.
I had 2 4s on my 9-hole par 3, so that was pretty good for me. I averaged 6. Okay, where can everybody get you on the social medias, Fred, if they want to say hi to you in Instagram land or whatever?
Instagram, Fred M. Briggs.
Okay, there you go, and we'll tag you and stuff. All right. Where can everybody get you on the things?
You can find me on Instagram at Ketchum Cordy. You can find me on that hellscape that is X at DC Cortez. You can find me as always being a flaming liberal on Blue Sky.
There you go. At
DC Cortez.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right, and you can find me and the show on the Twitter at ChipChatRR. You can, of course, find us on Facebook or Instagram at RipChipChat. And, of course, you can find us every Thursday night, next Thursday night, but not the one after that because that's Halloween.
Yes.
You can find us here on Thursday nights at 9:30 on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm Chip, that's Tez, that's Fred. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and Beyond.
The People's Justice, Clarence Thomas, and the constitutional stories that defined him.
Stay late when our guest is Illy Bird. In conclusion, the message is to go out and serve folks, whether that's through art, music, or if you just tell jokes. Seek to medicate your ears, hope you eradicate your fears. Thanks for sticking with us through all these years.